Hey everyone, Jeff Murray here, and in this video I want to continue the conversation on Hamlet, Act I. I'm going to be focusing on scenes 3 through 5, all right? And specifically I'm going to be using the Folger library version of Hamlet, all right? I'm going to start on page 38, and we're going to begin by just reading the brief summary of scene 3, all right? It says, in Polonius's chambers, Laertes says goodbye to his sister Ophelia. All right, let me give you a little bit of background who these people are. Some of them, I think Laertes you will remember from the last video. But Polonius is a counselor to King Claudius. Okay, King Claudius was Prince Hamlet's uncle, now is Prince Hamlet's stepfather. All right, he is the one who has moved in and taken over the throne of Denmark. Okay, his son Laertes was the one who had asked for leave to go back to France to go back to school. Remember, he got to go back to France, but Hamlet won't be allowed to go to Wittenberg to continue his studies. Ophelia is his sister, as it says here, but what we will see here pretty soon is that Ophelia is a love interest of Hamlet's. All right, and people are, we see very soon that people are highly skeptical of Hamlet's intentions in reference to or in regard to Ophelia. All right, it says, he says goodbye to his sister Ophelia and tells her not to trust Hamlet's promises of love. Polonius joins them, sends Laertes off, then echoes Laertes' warnings to Ophelia, finally ordering her not to see Hamlet again. All right, so let's go ahead and begin on page 39, scene 3, where it says Laertes and Ophelia, his sister. And so essentially what we will see here is the first thing that Laertes is doing is he's comparing Hamlet's love, or his actions of love, or his professing of love, as a flower. Flower wilts, flowers die. Okay, so essentially that the feelings that Ophelia has towards Hamlet, or that she's, the information she's receiving from Hamlet and his offerings up of love, he's saying don't trust those things. Those things are not going to stay. Those things are not solid. They are as fleeting as flowers as they wilt. Okay, on page 41, line 17, he says, perhaps he loves you now, and now no soil nor coddle both besmirch the virtue of his will, but you must fear his greatness weighed. His will is not his own, for he himself is subject to his birth. All right, so the idea here is like, he's the prince, all right? And so his allegiances aren't necessarily going to be to you, they are going to be to Denmark. They are going to be to his rank, to his, princely nature, okay? Or his princely duties, we should say that, all right? Going on, about line, let's say 33, it says, then weigh what a loss your honor may sustain, if with too credent ear you list to his songs, or lose your heart or your chaste treasure open to his unmastered importunity. Okay, so it's almost like, all right, so how long can you take this on? How long can you suffer and not really know where you stand? Or how long can you suffer and how long can you endure things as his attentions are turned other ways and not to you? All right, he even says, like an abundance of caution. All right, let's say line 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. It says, he has a little thing, best safety lies in fear. Okay, so be fearful, or be wary, or be very aware, and hold back, okay, to remain safe. Hold your heart back. Don't leap into any kind of relationship with Hamlet, because he's not necessarily one to be trusted, they believe. All right, or Laertes believes. All right. During this conversation, Polonius enters, and he sees his son and he sees his daughter, all right, and his son is supposed to have been, heading off to France, and one of the first things he says, line 60, he says, "Yet here, Laertes?" Like, are you still here? All right. "Aboard, aboard, for shame! The wind sits in the shoulder of your sail, and you are stayed for. There, my blessing with thee." Okay, you have my blessing. Why are you still here? Get going. That's the thing that you really want to do. All right. So, no time like the present. Let's get going. All right. But he gives him some fatherly advice before he leaves. All right. And there is a very famous line in this particular segment here, and I want you to listen to what he has to say to his son before his son sets off for university in France. Okay, I'm going to begin about line 68. He says, "Those friends thou hast, and their adoption tried, grapple them unto thy soul with hoops of steel, but do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new hatched unfledged courage." All right, be friends with people. Okay, and don't, it's not just a studying thing that you're going to do. Okay, but don't dull your senses with too much of that good time. Strike that nice balance, academic and social. Okay, it says, "Beware of entrance to a quarrel." Okay, don't jump into fights or anything like that. But being in, bear it, that the opposed may beware of thee. Okay, so don't engage in a quarrel, but if you find yourself in one, make sure that you are in a place where they are aware of your abilities, that you can stand up for yourself. All right. "Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment." Don't take to heart the things that people have to say, okay? Or listen to what they have to say, but make sure that if someone critiques you, you still have your own judgment to say whether or not that is a fair judgment of what you're doing. "Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy, rich, not gaudy. For the apparel oft claims the man. And they in France of the best rank and station are of a most select and generous chief in that." All right. So, as you present yourself clothing-wise, okay, and as you, engage in that, make sure that, you are expressing yourself the right way. Don't overdo it. Don't overly adorn yourself so that you're so gaudy. And be careful of this because you're headed to France. Okay, we still have one of the biggest fashion weeks in the world is in Paris. They've been known for their clothing and their attire and their, peacocking kind of ways all the way back to this. All right, but keep it reserved. Present yourself well, but don't overdo it. All right. "Neither a borrower nor a lender be." That's one of the famous lines there. "Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend." Okay, maybe you've loaned a friend a few bucks, and you're waiting to get paid back, and maybe you've reminded your friend, and maybe your friend hasn't done it or whatever, and now all of a sudden this $5 is kind of a source of tension between you, or $10 or however much you've given your friend. Okay, so don't borrow from others because that creates tension. Don't lend to others because that creates tension. All right. It says, "And borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry." Okay, and over here it says, it dulls the management of one's own money. All right, take care of your own. Don't have to go borrow from somebody else. And here it is. This is one of the most famous lines in the whole thing. "And this above all, to thine own self be true." All right, and it must follow, "As night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell, my blessing season this in thee." All right, so yeah, to your own self be true. Bottom line. Okay. Then he goes on, Polonius does, to speak to his daughter, Ophelia, and he asks essentially, "So, what's up with you and Hamlet? All right, what's the story there? And Ophelia says here on line 105, 6, 7, about line 108, says, "He hath, my lord, of late made many tenders of his affection to me." Okay. Polonius says, "Affection? You speak like a green girl, unsifted in such perilous circumstance. Do you believe his tenders, as you call them?" Ophelia responds, says, "I do not know, my lord, what I should think. It's flattering, it's nice, okay. Mary, I will teach you, think yourself a baby, that you have taken these tenders for true pay." Like, naive kid, all right? "Which are not sterling. You've taken these things which aren't like actual, he may profess love. What have you seen of actual tangible evidence of his love for you, or his affection towards you," as she says there, okay? "Tender yourself more dearly, or, not to crack the wind of poor phrase, running it thus, you'll tender me a fool." Ophelia says, "My lord, he hath importuned me with love in honorable fashion." All right, he's done it the right way. Polonius then, "Aye, fashion you call it? Go to, oh, do tell." Okay, she goes on to say some, a little bit of what, he's done. On line 126, though, Polonius says, "These blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat." All right, these things that you're mentioning, they're really, there's no substance to it. Okay, to the things that he says. All right, you've heard him say things, but what evidence, tangible evidence, is there of his actual love and affection towards you? Line 135, he says, okay, in a few words, Ophelia, like bottom line, let me say this. "Do not believe his vows, for they are brokers, not of that dye which their investments show, but mere implorators of unholy suits, breathing like sanctified and pious baws, the better to beguiled. This is for all." Okay? These things are nothing. Words, actions, different things. Okay? And then at the end, he says to insist that she no longer see him. All right? And that's where we end with this little conversation. And what we will see is, as this relationship of Ophelia and Hamlet grows, Ophelia has a difficult time with some things and how they play out. And we'll see this as we go. But, we have to set that scene and lay that foundation of their relationship here. And that's what this particular scene is doing. All right? So scene 4, we get to experience again the ghost. The ghost is returning to Hamlet. Hamlet and his buddies are out on guard to see if maybe again this ghost will approach them. And it's during this particular time that there is I don't know if I want to say a festival or it's a celebration where there is a considerable amount of drinking going on. And Hamlet comments on this, okay, and I think it's interesting, his comments on this practice that they have in this like I said, festival or celebration or whatever in Denmark. And we will see here at the little summary that his uncle stepdad Claudius is full on in the revelry, and it's so on page 48, the little summary there says, "While Claudius drinks away the night, Hamlet, Horatio, and Marcellus are visited by the ghost. It signals to Hamlet. Hamlet's friends try to stop his following the ghost, but Hamlet will not be held back." All right, and as we can see, early on, Hamlet is a very emotional guy. You're not gonna use rational thought to deal with Hamlet. That is not at all how he operates. Okay, and I think it's interesting because Hamlet wants to go to university in Wittenberg. He wants to study, a man of the mind. However, it is very rare that anyone can use any kind of logical thought to get to Hamlet because he's full on emotion 100%. Okay, so it's interesting to kind of weigh that little dichotomy there between, who Hamlet is as far as an academic, career student type of thing, and who Hamlet is when it really comes down to, his DNA, who he is. So, going into scene 4, we see a lot of commentary that Hamlet has towards the goings-on in regards to this celebration. And one of the things that he complains about is this drunken revelry that goes on. And he says that, the fact that everybody is drinking makes us look bad. All right? No one takes us seriously because they think we're just a bunch of lame drunkards. All right? And, as this summary is mentioned, Claudius is involved in it. So he's looking over at this Claudius, his uncle, who is not in any way ever, under any circumstances, going to live up to his father's, Hamlet's father's reputation in Hamlet's mind. And he's just like, look at this guy, just drinking. This whole thing makes us look bad, and now King Claudius is full on engaged with these people, and so, we're just seen as, stinking drunks. All right. And that's, mostly what he goes off about on page 49. And what we'll see on page 51 is the ghost will enter again. So they have success. Okay, they see this ghost. And on line 49, Hamlet's just like, I'll call thee Hamlet, king, father, royal Dane. Oh, answer me. So we get the sense of this desperation that Hamlet has to try to make contact with this ghost, his father, or the ghost that looks like his father. All right. And, that's kind of, again, what I'm saying. Like, like everything is so emotional to him. He's just like, oh my God, this is my father's ghost. I've got to do anything. I'll do anything to get your attention. Okay. And we see on page 53 that the ghost beckons for him, like, come on, follow me. Let's go. Let's get into this. And his friends are like, no. Horatio and Marcellus are like, no, don't go. And he's like, I'll go. They're like, don't go, I'll go. And like, no, okay. So there's that sort of, back and forth between them. But, the rational thought is not the type of thing that is actually going to make it through to Hamlet. He's like, I'm going because this is my father, and I'll do anything to try to see what happened to my father. All right. And someone even, implies there that, don't do this because this could draw you into madness. Okay? Now I want you to hold on to that. All right? Somebody says, don't follow the ghost because the ghost could draw you, I believe it's Horatio says it, because the ghost could draw you into madness. All right? Hold on to that thought. Okay? And so, he says on page 55, line 94, he says, unhand me, gentlemen, by heaven, I'll make a ghost of him that lets me, I say, away, go on, I'll follow. Like, I'll make a ghost of anyone who gets in my way. I will, like, if you want to get in my way, I'll kill you. All right? I'll make a ghost of you if you get in my way. I'm going to go and talk to this ghost. So, all right, you've been warned. All right. Horatio says he waxes desperate with imagination. Marcellus says something is rotten in the state of Denmark. Another very famous line from this. Okay, but they've all heard Hamlet and they all believe he's just crazy enough to do it. I will kill you if you get in my way as I go to seek out this ghost. All right, so fair enough. Okay, so Act 1, Scene 5. All right, the little summary there, it says, the ghost tells Hamlet a tale of horror. All right, because what we're going to do is we're going to find out. The ghost is going to tell Hamlet the real story about how he died. There's a rumor about how he died, or there's a belief and an accepted idea about how King Hamlet died, okay? But the ghost himself is going to say, let me tell you, this is what really happened, all right? It says, saying he is the spirit of Hamlet's father, he demands that Hamlet avenge King Hamlet's murder at the hands of Claudius. Hamlet, horrified, vows to remember and swears his friends to secrecy about what they've seen. All right, so here we go. Scene 5, I'm going to start on page 57, about line, 11, 12, 13, about line 14, where the ghost speaks. The ghost says, I am thy father's spirit. All right, straight up. Don't just look like your father. I'm the real deal. I'm actually his ghost. Real deal. How can a ghost be real deal? Whatever, okay. But he says, doomed for a certain term to walk the night, and for the day confined to fast in fires, till the foul crime done in my days of nature are burnt and purged away. All right, so I come out at night. I'm the ghost, but I'm unsettled. And this kind of thing reminds me, in a sense, we've read Iliad and Odyssey and all these other works, and how important it was for someone to get the proper burial rites, for that person to be able to cross over into the underworld and find that place. And of course, this is a completely different, era and a completely different, circumstance, writers and ideas of the world, Christian influences and things like that. However, we do get the sense that this kind of thing carries on. Like this ghost is not settled because of how things went down on earth. And this ghost will not rest until everything is out in the open and everything is set right. Okay, so there is kind of an intertextuality crossover, I would say, with those other things that we've read and what we're looking at right now. Okay. He says there on line 31, revenge his foul and most unnatural murder. Okay, avenge your father's foul and most unnatural murder. And Hamlet says, murder? Like, this is the first he's hearing of this. All right. And another famous line, the ghost says, murder most foul. Okay, murder most foul. The ghost on line, page 59, line 42 says, so like basically this is what everybody is saying happened. All right, this is what everybody seems to believe happened to King Hamlet and how he died. He says, "'Tis given out that, sleeping in my orchard, a serpent stung me. So the whole ear of Denmark is by a forged process of my death rankly abused." Okay, this is not what happened. "But know, thou noble youth, the serpent that did thy sting is thy father's life, now wears his crown." So yeah, the serpent that bit me is the one who is now sitting on the throne. My brother, your uncle. All right. And Hamlet's line, he says, "Oh, my prophetic soul, my uncle." All right. The ghost says, "Aye, that incestuous, that adulterate beast." Okay. The ghost goes on to mention, we were good once. Okay. There's this description there of the relationship between the queen and the king and all this kind of stuff. But he goes on to say in line 61, "Though lewdless court it in a shape of heaven, so lust, though to a radiant angel linked, will sate itself in a celestial bed and prey on garbage." All right. This thing that we deem beautiful, this love or whatever, turns to lust and feeds itself on garbage. All right. So, is mentioned incest, is mentioned adultery, and now this lewdness is the same as feeding on garbage, he says. Line 68, he says, "Upon my secure hour, thy uncle stole with juice of cursed Hebona in a vial, and in the porches of my ears did pour the leprous distilment." Okay, so essentially what he's saying is, King Claudius, the person who is now King Claudius, poured poison in King Hamlet's ear while King Hamlet was asleep. Okay, so the part about sleeping in the orchard, it says, they said I was sleeping in the orchard and I got bit by a snake. And he's like, I was sleeping in the orchard. A snake didn't bite me, but a snake named Claudius poured poison in my ear while I slept. All right. It says, whose effects hold such an enmity with blood of man, that swift as quicksilver it courses through the natural gates and alleys of the body, and with a sudden vigor it doth posset and curd like eager droppings into milk, the thin and wholesome blood, so it did mine. So this stuff gets in and then starts working with the blood in the circulatory system, and essentially turns the blood into something like curdled milk, and that's what happened to me, and that's why I died. That's how I died. So I was poisoned by your uncle, and now your uncle is your stepdad, and now your uncle has married my wife, the queen, and is now sitting on the throne of Denmark. All right. Even on line 81, he says, by a brother's hand of life, of crown, of queen, at once dispatched. Got rid of me. All right. Line 89, it says, let not the royal bed of Denmark be a couch for luxury and damned incest. But howsoever thou pursuest this act, taint not thy mind, nor let thy soul contrive against thy mother aught. Leave her to heaven, and to those thorns that in her bosom lodge, to prick and sting her. Fare thee well at once. All right? Focus on Claudius. Let your mother to be judged in heaven for what she's, the complicity, she's been complicit in this, okay? He's suggesting, the ghost is, leave her to heaven. Claudius, though? And so Hamlet says, meets back up with Horatio and Marcellus, and they're like, what happened? He's like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. You'll blab to everybody. And they're like, no, I swear I won't. I swear I won't. He's like, no, I don't believe you. Okay. He says on line 130 on page 63, you will reveal it. All right. Not I, my lord, by heaven, nor I, my lord. He says, how say you then? Would heart of man once think it? He says, but you'll be secret? Okay, you'll be secret. He says on line 160, page 65, it says, never make known what you have seen tonight. It says, my lord, we will not. Nay, but swear it. In faith, my lord. Not I, nor I, my lord, in faith, upon my sword. I swear upon my sword. All right. And they go back and forth and give every sort of, way to say, no, I swear it, I promise. There's no way I'm ever going to tell anybody about this, okay? And so we end this, page 69, we end this whole thing, Act 1, with Hamlet saying, like, look, no matter what I do, no matter how I behave, no matter what you see, don't tell anybody what happened here. Don't tell anybody about the ghost. Don't tell anybody about the circumstance. Don't tell anybody that I'm, out to get Claudius and to bring revenge or anything like that. None of that. All right. You keep it to yourself. And so we kind of get the sense of, like, what's Hamlet going to do? How is he going to behave? What does he have? What's working up in his mind right now? And the way he's going to avenge his father. All right. So you're going to have to stay tuned for that. All right. So that's it. That's all of Act 1. This was 3, 4, and 5. Scenes 3, 4, and 5. So stay tuned for some discussion of Act 2. That's soon to follow. All right. So, as always, I want to wish everyone happy reading.